It ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. Just as our friend Rocky says, it's not about how many times you hit the mat. It's about how many times you can get up and bounce back. And that's exactly what we're talking about here with our top bounce back candidates for fantasy football for the 2025 NFL season. Welcome, football fans, to another edition of IDP Plus. What is up, folks? I'm one of your hosts here, the DGen Doc, and I am joined, more importantly, by my brother in degeneracy, Mr. Derek Bennett, aka Professor Locks. How we doing tonight, brother?
Not too bad. Not too bad. What is this? Thursday, the 7th of August.
7th of August. I got a
We
nice
got preseason games
on my
tonight.
shirt. I just got that. Don't worry.
Come
Just bought it.
on.
I know. It's a little pre-production whoopsie-doo. But
Yeah.
look, yeah, you're right. Preseason week 1, which if you are, we talked about it on an earlier show. I think if you're watching your own team and if you want to throw a couple of dollars on your own team for preseason, yeah. But if you're watching all these games, man, either we need to get you out there at the dating scene or that's a lot because I love
Gotta find some new
football.
hobbies. Gotta
Right.
find
I
some new
love
hobbies if
football.
we're tuning into all of the preseason games. But
Right.
there are 3 preseason games tonight. We got the Colts and Ravens, Bengals, Eagles, and Raiders, Seahawks.
Yeah.
Is the late one tonight.
So we'll see. I mean, the Colts. Maybe you want to tune into the active QB1 competition between Anthony Richardson and Dan Jones. But yes, my friend, we are now talking fantasy football, and we are specifically talking our favorite guys to have a bounce back season. These are guys coming off some type of injury, coming off a down year, who we are saying that these guys are set up in it, whether it's a great position, great situation. Maybe the injury isn't as bad as some people think. And we are saying these are the guys that we are backing to have a great season. Our threshold for this was kind of you got to miss at least 3 games. Again, we're taking a little bit of an injury spin because that's our specialty. Both of us, as doctors of physical therapy, we're healthcare professionals. That is what we do. So we got a little bit of an edge there when it comes to understanding what injuries to worry about and which ones, can bounce back at a little bit better, at least according to the data, according to what we're seeing there. Speaking of injuries, we've got one that's pretty hot. We've got a
couple major ones come out in the past couple of days.
Let's talk about the newest one, and that is Rashawn Slater, left tackle for the Los Angeles Chargers. At this point, when we're recording, about 30 minutes ago, he found out he got carted off with a non-contact. They think it's a knee injury. It's a leg injury, but they're thinking it's the knee, which obviously non-contact. He went down, got carted off, visible frustration, hugs from the teammates. Not the good sign. So sometimes we just saw it with the Bills cornerback, Maxwell Hairston. He can get lucky, and it's like an LCL as opposed to the dreaded ACL or something super long-term. So let's hope right now it's not anything super serious, but definitely something to keep an eye on because, there's a lot of people hyping up the Chargers. And if you want to hear our opinion about the Chargers, go check out our team preview, division preview over there about them. But if you have your left tackle out for a significant amount of time.
Definitely a massive missing cornerstone of that offensive line. You got Joe Alt on the other side, and I'm sure Jim Harbaugh would not hesitate to just flip him over to the other side because he is a massive human being with all the talent in the world. But it definitely would hurt if he has to miss some time.
We talk about O-line chemistry all the time, and the O-line was kind of one of those positions, at least especially at the tackle, at the bookends, like you could kind of set and forget for the Chargers.
Right. Oh, yeah.
A team that wants to run the rock and use play action and, long developing plays for Justin Herbert to go downfield and stuff.
Yep.
That's really hard when you don't have your stud left tackle. Like you said, they'll probably pop Alt to the left side, Trey Pipkins out, and, Mekhi Becton needs to get healthy to get in that lineup. But definitely do not want Slater out, so definitely want to keep an eye on. Now, another big injury, Matthew Stafford. We've been kind of talking about the back thing that's kind of very mysterious. What are we dealing with? We got some clarification here. It's called an aggravated disc, which is not an actual diagnosis. It just kind of refers to an umbrella term that just says, hey, one of his discs between his vertebrae, his intervertebral disc, has some type of issue going on, and he had an epidural, which is not just for pregnant people, but it can be used in
Pain
this
relief.
case. They push a corticosteroid, typically, sometimes anesthesia, into the spine to kind of hopefully calm down that intervertebral disc issue.
Right.
Now, why don't you today? Like, what can we expect here? Because as you well know, sometimes they work great, but
Yep.
other times they don't actually take, and they don't really treat what the main issue is. It's more of a symptom kind of deal. So, what's
Right.
the takeaway with this on Matthew Stafford?
Yeah, I mean, anytime we're dealing with any back related issues, red flags definitely start to pop up. It's one of those types of injuries that's not always straightforward, like certain things, like we were talking about, like with ACLs, you're
Yeah,
done.
right,
You
right,
know, with I don't know, Achilles things, you're done. With back
right,
things, some dudes can play through them, sometimes they can't. Sometimes that they can play through them, but they're still aggravated, and
right.
it's something that, especially in season, like it's really hard to like maintain that, uh, or kind of keep that pain under control, because
Yeah,
you guys, I mean, they're constantly getting beat up, constantly moving around.
exactly.
With Stafford, this is something that, even though he got the epidural just to basically maintain better pain tolerance,
Yeah,
it's kind of hard,
yeah.
to really
You hinted.
say, yes, he's going to be good for the entire season, because with back things, especially with disc related things, they can pop up
Mhm.
just like that.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, they're very tricky. Like Derek said, that I mean, not just for athletes, for all of our patients we treat, but
Yeah.
they're just the variability of what's going to take and what's not going to take. Imaging for the low back isn't really that great, because like sometimes someone's imaging can look terrible and they're perfectly
Yeah.
healthy, and then you have someone who looks
Right.
perfectly healthy on imaging and they're in 10 out of 10 pain and all these things. So you
Right.
know, I think that week one he should be good. I think early in the
Right.
season, I think he's going to be the best he's going to be, because you
I think
mentioned
so
it.
too.
One, you can only get so many epidurals. You're not something you can get every week. Maybe
Right.
every couple months or something like that. So maybe like halfway through the
Hmm.
season, you can get another one if needed.
Yep.
If it works, right? It doesn't always work.
Right. Right.
But
Right. Yeah, and that's the other thing. Sometimes they work for 6 months. Sometimes they work for 6 days, and it's just
no.
the variability is crazy.
So Rams fans and Matt Stafford backers and fantasy owners, like you're going to be on eggshells, because one big hit, one wrong throwing motion, like it's one of those things that, especially if so most of us have probably dealt with a low back issue. Like sometimes it doesn't even take a whole lot for it
Right.
to kind of re-aggravate, right? So but there are players, I think Philip Rivers, Tony Romo have dealt with this in the past, and they were able to have
Yep.
decently successful seasons. So that's kind of the tough part, is there is so much variability, but it definitely raises the injury concern for a 37-year-old
Yep.
quarterback whose offensive line, their left tackle, I still believe, is getting treated for blood clots, right? So it's not
Right.
the most congrusive unit. So
Right.
definitely something to keep an eye on there. We did come down with some news. Jordan Addison, Minnesota Vikings wide receiver, suspended for 3 games for a DUI in 2024 last season. I think it was actually
Yep.
his second driving incident of his
Mhm.
rookie year. Is he a rookie? Is he a second year guy or third year?
Second year guy last year. Yeah.
Yeah. So when coming into a rookie, someone on X was saying that reminded me. I think he had like a reckless driving and then a DUI or something like that. Because I think he was like going
Okay.
like 100 or something over the first time.
Sure.
So, but my question to you, and we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but so Jordan Addison kind of out of everybody's mind. We know the NFL can kind of be a little bit of what does the public think into their decision
Yeah.
making. So he
Yeah.
got 3 for something last year that
Yep.
most people forgot about. What do
Right.
we think Rashi Rice gets? It wasn't a DUI, but it
Right.
was reckless endangerment, and he fled the scene, and it was very public.
Yep.
So
Yep.
where are you at with it?
I think he'll end up fairly similar to Addison. My guess is 4 games, mostly because of, like you mentioned, it wasn't necessarily just because he was doing something idiotic and absolutely flying and putting other people in danger,
Right.
but then he just left
Right.
and didn't
Yeah.
take the accountability into his own hands. So I think
Yeah.
the NFL will come down a little bit stronger with him, especially because it was much more of a public incident than with Addison.
Yeah, and with the court ruling him having to eventually spend 30 days in jail, right?
Right.
Addison did not
True.
have that. So, yeah, I think you're right on with the 4. I think between 4 to 6, I definitely would not be surprised.
Yep.
But we'll ultimately see. It's kind of one of those things that it's, I would say it's very likely he's going to be suspended at least 3 games to start the season, but
Yeah.
there's a
Agreed.
potential it could be up to 6. So, we'll have to take that into account there. And then the last one, which is going to be a little bit of a fun one. Shout out to Derek for being a young guy and being on the Snapchat here. He sent me this, and from this you can't really tell. So I got a nice another picture to zoom in. Turn up your brightness if you need to see here. But obviously we've got Najee Harris and we've
Because
got
somebody else can't see.
yeah, that's a good point. We've got the eye gate here. We had the superficial eye injury of July 4th. Although we always tweet
Yep.
out our JPP reminder, be safe with fireworks. Clearly, Najee Harris is not following along. But yeah,
Nope.
called superficial. We talked about how is it superficial. It's been a month and he's walking with a weighted vest for rehab. That kind of probably indicates he's not cleared to run and jump, right? Some type of
Right.
maybe post-op procedure. And then we get this yesterday. And if you could see from the zoomed in version, specifically looking at his left eye here, so we see the whites and we see his cornea and everything in the right eye, but the other side squarely shut, nothing to be seen. So really there's 2 cases. And I tweeted this out like, every day that passes and we don't get a clear answer, I'm more and more certain that he's functioning with one eyeball.
Yeah.
But either we have Najee Harris pulling off the troll of all trolls, and it's just like playing into it. I saw something about Harbaugh saying he's developed like some whatever the Dolphins or echolocation, whatever the Dolphins actual animals use, or
Yeah.
something like that, making a joke. So unless he's just trolling us, like the dude can't open his left eye. Maybe he's not allowed to. Maybe he's not supposed to. Maybe it just freaking hurts. But
Right.
what I mean, you were the finder of this and bringing this to light, but not a good thing, right? Unless it's a complete troll of just not a Harris.
I mean, if it's a troll, props to him because that's
Right.
hilarious. But if it's not a troll job and he literally just doesn't feel comfortable opening up his left eye, major concerns at
This
this
is, I
point.
mean, we're less than a month from the
As
season.
we're probably 6 weeks out,
No,
4 weeks
what?
out, 5 weeks out,
6
something
weeks
like
out.
that.
We're less than a month, bro. We're in August.
No, from when it happened,
Right.
from
4th of
when he
July,
blew his
so a
eye
little
out,
bit over a month out.
scratched
Yeah,
his
yeah.
eye, whatever
Yeah,
happened.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So, I mean, crazy. I don't know how can you draft him, man? Like the guy can't even run and jump right now. Now we're expecting him in less than a month to get back into football shape, learn the new offense. And this is a guy that we were somewhat high on coming in, but this is
no
definitely
doubt.
the one of the injuries that I've completely flipped around. And the more
Yeah,
we kind of deal with this, the more I'm like, oh my goodness, I guess I need some Marion Hampton.
yeah.
All right, now
Let's
to
get
what we
into some guys that we actually like going
right,
into
right.
the
This is a
fantasy
fun
drafts.
episode because we get to
Right.
talk about our favorite injury bounce back candidates for the 2025 fantasy football season here. Before we get into that, though, I have to tell you guys about Bob Lunk's fantasy football consistency guide. We're going to spend a lot of time talking fantasy football today. So we want you to get a leg up on your opponent by getting Bob's 10th annual edition of the fantasy football consistency guide for 2025. Purchase yours today for a measly $15 on Amazon. Just search 2025 Fantasy Football Consistency Guide for the price of essentially a lunch in 2025. You can get one leg up on your league mates and get one step closer to another championship there for the trophy I know you guys have. Trophy case, excuse me. All right, let's get into our first guy here that we're
Yep.
talking about as far as our bounce back candidates. No real order, just kind of 6. The way this is gonna work. 6 guys that we feel we're going to make a case for are going to have a much better 2025 season than 2024. And then we
Yep.
do have a couple of sleepers, 2 sleepers at the end that nice little dart throws. I love my dart throws.
Yep.
So let's get into it here. Starting off with a guy we did a whole injury deep dive episode on, Mr.
Yep.
Stephon Diggs. All right. Why? So coming off an ACL tear in week 9, he's got about 10 months in a week of recovery timeline. typically about a 10 to 12 month recovery window here. Why
Yeah.
do we feel good about Stephon Diggs in this scenario, given he's coming off an ACL tear in year one?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things that come to mind for me. One, he evaded the pup
Right.
going into training camp,
Huge.
which is massive when it comes
Huge.
to getting him on the field, getting him comfortable with the offense with his new quarterback in Drake May, and it's just telling us that hey, his rehab's gone pretty well. He's back to running, jumping, cutting, doing all of the things right.
Right.
Um, you have a great opportunity in New England because besides him, there are no other pass catchers that necessarily scare me
Right.
from the New England standpoint. And Drake May did come on pretty strong last year as a rookie. And last time Stephon Diggs got dealt to a new team with a young quarterback, he did pretty well there for 3 or 4 years when he
Oh
was in
yeah.
Buffalo with Josh Allen. So, is he going to be, the Stephon Diggs for that we saw with Josh Allen for Drake May? Time will tell. But I think overall, just avoiding the pup, the opportunity that he has to be that number one wide receiver is really great for a fantasy perspective. Just because
Yeah.
again, target share wise, who else are they getting the ball to?
I'm right there with you, man. This is a guy we've kind of look. Our initial instinct, per the research, per the data, per what we
Right.
know, is you want to fade running backs and wide receivers, tight ends, skill position guys coming off a year, coming the first year off of an ACL,
Yep.
because there is a production dip. Now,
Right.
there are certain cases, everyone thinks Adrian Peterson, Chris Godwin a couple years ago, where you can have a productive season and outperform your expectations. And
Yep.
this is a situation where a lot of things are lining up well for Stephon Diggs. Derek talked about the situation with the New England Patriots. This is a team that did not have a wide receiver, any receiver, go over 700 yards last year with,
Yep.
Drake May and showing his promise. Their leading receiver was Hunter Henry, right? So no receiver went over 650. So, excluding last season where he only played 8 games due to the ACL injury, every single year Stephon Diggs has been in the league, he has gone over 700 yards. He went before last season, he had 6 straight 1,000-yard seasons. This is a
Yep.
guy who is proven he can be the leader in that room, and he's going to get a shit ton of
Yep.
targets. Right now, he's going at around 90, ADP of 90, wide receiver 41. I
Yep.
mean, this is a wide receiver one on a team. Now, there's a lot of hype around New England. We're not quite on the hype train all the way, but we do like Drake May. We like some of the pieces they brought in. They should theoretically get better on the offensive line. This is a wide receiver one for a team that's potentially a playoff contender,
Need one.
right?
Yeah.
So I think that he's going to have plenty of opportunity, touchdown opportunity. So now we will say the first couple weeks, if you have him, I'm not putting him in my lineup. I need to see it.
Agreed.
Round week 4 is when I will
Yeah.
start considering him closer to back to where we see him close
Yep.
to 100%, right? But I am super encouraged by him avoiding the pup. He looks good out in practice. Still a little bit of asymmetry side to side. Needs to work on the muscle development there, but that'll come.
Sure.
But yeah, Stephon Diggs is our first bounce back candidate in fantasy football for the great year of 2025. All right. This next guy, why don't you introduce him to the people, and then I'll kind of give the injury breakdown there. But
Sure.
because he's close to your heart, so
Yeah, yeah. My good friend GP George Pickens, who got dealt down to the Dallas Cowboys this past offseason, had a grade 2 hamstring strain. Basically, grade 2 meaning there's probably a little bit of tearing, nothing completely ruptured, but definitely can hold you out longer than a mild hamstring strain. So this is a guy that missed 3 games, but even once he came back the last couple of games, he had 1 catch for 41 yards. And besides that 1 catch in 2 games, I think he had a total of like 12 yards,
yeah,
something
not
like
much.
that. I think he had 4 catches over the last 2 games for 60 yards.
Yeah.
So with George Pickens being dealt down to Dallas, coming off this hamstring strain, what do you think about his situation and how he can come back from that hamstring strain.
Yeah, sometime I like to disrupt the show flow just to piss Derek off. Keep him on his toes. But yeah, no, you talked about it. This really derailed his season. From week 14 on, he
Yeah,
was basically either not playing or a non-factor. Still put up 900 yards to lead the Steelers in receiving there. First season 800 yards, then from 1,150 yards and 900, 4, 5, and 3 touchdowns respectively. I mean, clearly one of the best receivers when it comes to adjusting to the ball in the air and the deep ball over there.
yeah,
So, we're going to talk about somebody else on this offense a little bit later. Spoiler alert. But this is a Cowboys team that go ahead and check out our preview if you want to kind of get an in-depth look at the Cowboys. But we're
yeah,
expecting their offense to be able to go, right? CeeDee Lamb has been able to do incredible things when it's just kind of been him on an island. Now you
right.
get CeeDee Lamb, you have, Jalen Tolbert still, you bring in George Pickens, you got Ferguson at the tight end. I've got some options now for Dak in that offense, and I think this defense is going to be really bad. Trayvon Diggs, Demaryiman Overshown coming off major injuries. Don't expect them to potentially be back at all next season. If so, just shells of themselves. I think Dallas, whether they're winning or losing games, they're going to have to score and throw the ball a ton.
Yep.
What is that running back room going to look like? Miles Sanders, Devontae Williams. They talk about this Jaden Blue coming from Texas. I
Right.
mean, no one really is kind of taking ownership of that backfield. So we know that Dallas is not afraid to throw the ball all over the yard. So I think there's going to be plenty of opportunities for both CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. So for him to be
Right.
going, 66, wide receiver 29, I think that's just entirely too low. I think this is going to be, it has potential to be like
Yep.
a Jamar Chase, to T. Higgins light, I think they
Yep.
can light it up, man. I really think both these guys can go over 1,000 yards. And I think he's kind of, everyone's looking at CeeDee Lamb and not realizing like George Pickens is going to get some of that too.
Right. Right. No, I think you almost hit the nail on the head. I think it does ultimately come back to who's throwing him the football. Because CeeDee Lamb is a whole monster by himself. He's a PPR nightmare if you're facing him. George Pickens, in best ball, I love him. Love him.
Yeah.
It depends on Dak. And if he's able to stay healthy, we'll see if he ends up making our bounce back candidate list. But as far as George Pickens' status goes, assuming that he stays healthy, Dak stays healthy, this offense is going to roll. And like you said, their defense is probably not going to be very good. They're going to have to throw the ball a lot to keep up the scoring. And George Pickens is a dominant deep threat, a dominant receiver at the point of the catch. So, yeah, I think, when Pickens is healthy, Dak's by far the best quarterback that's been thrown him the ball. So his numbers should continue to rise.
Yeah. Oh, I just wanted to see how long you were going to say nice things about former Steeler George Pickens, but we'll move on and take you out of the torture chamber. We're going to a guy now, one of my favorite targets at the tight end position this year, TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah.
And, he's going ADP 63, tight end 6, kind of collectively from the data I could gather there. This is a guy who typically, when you have players coming off an ACL plus injury,
Yep.
year 2 is the
Yep.
year where you want to bet on them, right? Because there is, data suggests that it can take sometimes up to 2 years for normal movement to return. So not
Yep.
that they can just get out there and get back on the field and, go full speed, but
Right.
really like nerves especially take a long time. These movement patterns that we talk about, right?
Right.
That neuromuscular control of the knee. So TJ Hawkinson is now in year 2. We saw him come back and be somewhat effective last season coming off that ACL plus tear. I think it was ACL, MCL. Now he's in a situation where he missed the first 8 weeks, so he's kind of coming off that, and now he should be set up for a really good year. What say you about TJ Hawkinson, year 2 coming off that ACL injury?
Yeah, even going way back to when we ranked our top guys at each position, I think TJ Hawkinson was number 3 for us, and that was
Right.
probably a little bit higher than average.
Oh
But
yeah.
It's just one of those things where he's in another great spot. I mean, obviously you got Justin Jefferson out wide, but with the Jordan Addison suspension over the first 3 weeks, you're going to have basically a rookie quarterback and JJ McCarthy throwing him the ball. What better kind of outlet to a young quarterback than a stud tight end with these long golden locks in DJ Hawkinson?
Yeah, no, I mean, he's a guy that can consistently find the end zone throughout his career. He gets up close to 100 catches, close to 1,000 yards. I just think he's going to return back to that production that we saw pre-injury. He's still, only 28 years old this season. So I think he's going to be huge. You talked about JJ McCarthy being essentially a rookie quarterback. I mean, that's how he didn't play at all. Right? He played like what, 1 or 2 preseason games, and that's it. You're a rookie quarterback in my eyes, and that's no slight to him. But rookie quarterbacks need to develop a safety blanket over the middle, and that's usually the tight end. TJ Hawkinson is very capable, so I think he's going to get a ton of targets. You talked
Now,
about
will JJ McCarthy make our bounce back candidate list? Time will
that
tell.
to be determined, Mr. Buckeye. I don't know if that got approved by corporate, but we'll see. But yeah, no, I love TJ
One of us
Hawkinson.
supports that team up north. I can't relate, but I said one of us supports that team up north.
We all childhood is hard to get rid of, but hey, I guess what the past 2 national champions isn't a terrible thing. But enough of that. Yeah, TJ Hawkinson though, I do think that he's going to have a stellar year, even at tight end
I
6. I think he's going to outperform his expectations.
Yeah, no doubt. I think, to me, if you're looking for a tight end come round 5, 6, something like that, TJ Hawkinson is a great pick.
Yeah.
But like I said earlier, he's like tight end 3, maybe 4. You could throw Kittle in there
Yeah.
for us. So
If
yeah,
we Yeah, and
go ahead.
you're talking about, like, we were talking about best ball and even just drafting in general. Like, if you want to think of a pretty attainable stack, assuming, right, you get a high enough pick where you can get Justin Jefferson, which is
Sure.
falling. We gave our opinions on it. I don't think he should be. We don't think he should be
Right.
falling for this minor hamstring injury he's got going
Yep.
on. So do not fade Justin Jefferson. But to be able to get Justin Jefferson and then be able to get Hawkinson, 5th, 6th round, whatever,
It's a great
is
pick.
pretty affordable. And then JJ McCarthy is basically going for free. So if you want to throw him in as well, we'll see where all the ADPs wind up with this Addison suspension news. Maybe that changes some things, but right now, TJ Hawkinson's getting drafted too low, so we would encourage you to jump in and get that bounce back. All right, we got 3 more players for our bounce back candidates, but before we do that, I got to tell you guys about idpplus.com, because you guys are our friends, you guys are our family, and we want you to be better football fans. We want you to be better fantasy football players, and we want you to be more profitable bettors. And all that means is you just got to go to idpplus.com. Jump in with us. We got tons of content. We've got a subscribers only Discord. We got different levels of subscription to get different levels of content, depending on how far ahead you want to get in your football game. So head on over to idpplus.com today and don't miss out on all the great action we got going there. Next up on the bounce back candidates for 2025, we have Mr. Jalen Waddle himself going down to South Beach there. A guy who missed 3 games due to a right knee injury. He's kind of dealing with it for most of the season. So I would say more than 3 games were affected there, but he did miss the 3 games. So he meets our threshold there. Jalen Waddle, a guy who, the injury itself, we don't really need to spend a ton of time on. It's nothing really long term. He's been healthy, so it's more about just betting on him to kind of get back to where he's been. He's going 75th overall, wide receiver 36 on a guy who had 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons. What's the case here for Jalen Waddle having a bit of a bounce back year?
Yeah, I mean, besides the lack of talent in their tight end room, now that they traded Jonnu Smith to the Steelers,
right?
Unless you've turned the corner on your boy Waller,
he's still not on the field, correct? He's still in the booth rapping on the pup.
That's true.
Yes, definitely not changing my opinion there. But go ahead.
Yeah. But Jalen Waddle, it's him and Tyreek, and I mean, that's your pass catchers. I mean, Jonnu Smith was the leading catcher or pass receiver, whatever, last year, if I'm not mistaken. But Waddle has big play potential at all times. Is
Right.
it going to be a Waddle game? Is it going to be a Tyreek Hill game? That's the bigger question. Will Tua be the quarterback? Because last year I think Waddle and Tyreek both took a little bit of a step back with Tua missing the month that he did with his concussion, and then obviously the last game or two with the hip injury. But assuming, again, we got to at this point assume that guys will be healthy, even though likely not. Jalen Waddle is a great wide receiver 2 in that offense. He can still be a great wide receiver 2 in your fantasy lineups as well.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think it's pretty easy to make the case that there's not 35 wide receivers better than Jalen Waddle in the NFL.
Yes.
Now we look at the situation, right? Yes, we do have the Tua thing, and we'll see right now he is healthy. They said they've made improvements on the offensive line. They have drafted for the offensive line the past couple of years here.
Right.
So you would expect that to get a little bit better. Jonnu Smith, I mean, yeah, he was the leading receiver as far as catches. Tyreek Hill did beat him in yards there, but he had the most catches and touchdowns on the team. So you're losing 88 catches, almost 900 yards, and 8 touchdowns now of opportunity there with no real backfill. Like, again, Darren Waller being the tight end 1 is an absolute joke. The only thing that's kind of almost as big of a joke is their secondary, which they just lost their best cornerback in Kader Kodu. I said that totally wrong, but yeah, I think Kohu. Yeah.
Ooh.
So they literally, I mean, they're every time I look at their depth chart, their secondary is changing. They're picking guys off the street like Jack Jones and Kendall Sheffield and Mike Hilton, and they're immediately starters. Like, if that doesn't tell you anything, Ashton Davis right now is currently with crutches and a boot. We'll see if he's healthy for the time. So this defense. And I get it. Jalen Phillips has come back from another season-ending injury. Bradley Chubb hasn't played football in 2 years. Like, their front seven may be decent, but man, that secondary, I think they're going to be awful.
So you're saying they got a bad defense, a questionable offensive line, no tight end. This team's going to suck.
Look, if you want to hear me talk about the Miami Dolphins, about a couple plays I have for them to absolutely bottom out, you can go check out the IDP Plus Bets channel. But keep it in fantasy.
At the same time, all of those things are kind of positives for Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill.
Exactly. I mean, they're gonna have to throw the ball. You can if someone makes the argument that they're gonna win games, you got to score at least 30 if you're winning any of these games. So whether it's garbage time or whether they're making this, this is just turns into the Bengals, right? Offense. That's basically very positive for Jalen Waddle. So this is someone we both think that has set up for a great opportunity to have a bounce back season this year. Moving on to the only quarterback we have on the board here. We alluded to the man a little bit earlier. And it is
Dak Prescott.
Is the man, Dak Prescott, not Michigan man, JJ McCarthy. Dak Prescott here, getting drafted around 106, QB 13. Coming off a hamstring injury and a avulsion tear there, which essentially, when we talk about soft tissue injuries to muscles, things like that, there's strains and their severities called grades. So grade 1 is minor, grade 2 is moderate, grade 3 is major, like full tear, right? Like surgery. So he had that grade 3 avulsion. Essentially, avulsions where the muscle rips off so much it takes a piece of the bone with it. So it requires surgery. Super painful, not fun. But recovery timeline typically 4 to 6 months. So his season was over, but he does have 10 months from when he got injured to next season. So assuming he should be pretty healthy, why are we positive on Dak Prescott this season?
Yeah, I mean, just going back to the 2023 season, the year before last,
right?
This dude threw for 4,500 yards and 36 touchdowns and led the league. So, and that's without a solid wide receiver too, which you acquired with George Pickens. So, assuming that he stays healthy, assuming that CD and George Pickens or at least one of those dudes is out there.
Right.
Dak can put up some numbers, major numbers. It's one of those things where looking back over the last 4 seasons, last year he played 8 games, didn't have a great season. The year before that, led the league in touchdowns and threw for 4,500 yards. The year before that, played 12 games, threw for 23 touchdowns, 2,800 yards, so. The year before that, 37 touchdowns,
Yeah.
4,500 yards. So if the guy stays healthy, he's going to put up numbers, and that's
Yeah.
mostly to do with CD Lamb. Now you put a second-headed monster on the other side to free those guys up.
Yeah, I mean, you're hitting it right on the head. Like, he's kind of gone this on off year, and data
Yep.
tells us this should be an on year. And if it's an on year, you can basically pencil in 4,500 passing yards and 30 plus touchdowns, which is a
Yeah.
pretty solid damn season, right? He
Right.
does have a little bit of rushing. He's had or more earlier in his career as he's getting a little bit older, not as big of the rushing threat, but with those passing stats, I mean, similar to Joe Burrow, you don't need
Yep.
the rushing as much, right?
And to go back on your point with GP, this defense is probably not going to be very good. So he's
No,
going to have to throw the ball. The rushing game
yeah.
is probably not going to be great. They're going to have to throw the ball.
Yeah, and that's kind of where a lot of these stats can come from. So we we got a wide variety on Dak Prescott the way we're going to be playing him this year. But
Oh yeah,
again, I don't see 12 better fantasy quarterbacks on
I
in
don't
the
either.
NFL. I think he's
Nope.
getting super slept on. He's got the best
Yep.
wide receiving core he's had in his tenure there.
Yep.
His offensive line, we'll see about their left tackle and Guyton. He potentially could be back week 1. We're kind
Right.
of waiting on there. But I mean, Micah Parsons is still holding out. We talked about the two defensive guys that are going to be bad. Like, it's just all
Yep.
set up for the Cowboys passing attack is going to be something that is going to be very profitable in the fantasy markets.
No doubt.
So that's where we got Dak as our number 5 there, and rounding us out, the Joker himself, Mr. Evan Ingram, former New York Giant, former Jacksonville Jaguar, now Denver Bronco.
Right.
Sean Payton, brought him in to be that guy because they had 3 tight ends that really sucked last year. So
Yes, they did.
they had a solid roster last year. They went out and made the defense better, and then they brought in this great addition. So I'll talk about his injury. You're going to tell me why it's such a good situation.
Sure.
8 games missed due to injury. First 4 or so was the hamstring. Then
Mhm.
it was a shoulder, a labrum tear, which you wind up having season-ending surgery. Typically, about a 4 to 6 week recovery timeline for a labrum.
Yep.
Not a huge deal, especially when you have the whole off season. So he should be good to go. He's been back out there. No real, the injury seems to be behind him, and we would expect it to be. So why are we so high on Evan Ingram this season?
Yeah, I mean, the dude when he's been healthy over the last couple seasons, like he's a catch he's a catching machine. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
the
don't
the
know what
year
happened.
before he had 114 catches for 963 yards, and you're going to an offense that lacks like top end talent at the wide receiver position outside of Cortland Sutton.
Right.
So he's probably going to be their number 2 option in an offense that really started humming pretty well
Yep.
with Bo Nix at the helm. So Sean Payton, again, is one of the best offensive minds we have in the NFL and has notably made tight ends pretty standout guys in the offense historically. I mean, we can think back to Jimmy Graham when he was in New Orleans,
Right.
and Jimmy Graham was an absolute stud.
Yeah.
So I think Evan Ingram, with the hands that he has developed down in Jacksonville, he never had them when he was in New York.
He did
Sorry,
not. He
um,
did not.
but um, but yeah, I think he's got all the potential in the world in this offense. And again, you have a not a rookie quarterback, a second year guy that again likes or quite potentially would just like a nice easy
Oh, yeah.
target every once in a while.
I mean, that's one of the reasons you talk about the success of Bo Nix. It was because he was in a very QB friendly system. They
Yep.
wanted to utilize the tight ends. Like, they targeted the tight ends a ton. It was just no
Yes.
one stepped up, right? Especially in the red zone. You had Dulcich, you had Kroll, you had Troutman or whatever. Like,
Right.
none of those
Trump.
guys even sniffed the caliber of wide receiver that Evan Ingram is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Evan Ingram can be a PPR monster. He's had multiple seasons of over 100 targets. I mean, again, that Jags 2023 year, over 100 catches, almost 1,000 yards. Like, you talked about it. He's gonna be the wide receiver too, a de
Yeah.
facto second, target in the passing game, right? Because
Right.
you got Cortland
Mhm.
Sutton there, but outside of him, like Marvin Mims is a flyer, Vele,
Yeah.
you got some guys, Pat Bryan, whatever, but he should be the second option.
Yep.
And a team that is, projected to be good.
And
We're very
honestly, looking at the numbers here, I mean, going back a few years, he's kind of a poor man's Trey McBride at this point. Like, he
yeah,
doesn't have great touchdown numbers, he's scoring 3 or 4 a season, but
right.
again, from a reception standpoint, a yard standpoint, he's pretty solid.
Yeah, he's getting drafted around 85 and then tight end 8. So again,
Yep.
someone that, really Hawkinson and him easily can make a case for them to be top 5 tight ends this year.
Oh, yeah.
So I think there's tons of potential there. And he's on a good team, which in this case, we talk about touchdown potential, touchdown opportunities. I think there's going to be a ton, especially
Agreed.
in a backfield that's still got some things to figure out, So I think that they've got you. You're worried about Bo Nix's legs, and you can hit the nice target over the middle there with Evan Ingram. So the Joker, he was brought in. Sean Payton wants to utilize him, so we think he's going to have a nice bounce back year.
Yep.
All right, we're going to finish it up with a couple sleepers, but before we do that, I got to tell you guys, one, hopefully you're going out to the Fantasy Football Expo. Say hi to all our content creators, all of our staff over there. We got a bunch of people heading out there, so say what's up from us. Enjoy the Fantasy Football Expo, and if you want your tickets for the 2026, go to the fantasyfootballexpo.com and check that out. But we're talking fantasy, and we cannot talk fantasy without talking fast draft fantasy. It's in the name, folks. You want to start drafting faster today. Nothing worse than knowing exactly who you want to walk out of the draft with, having a strategy. You've got it all down your head, and you've got to wait for Slow Mo and Joe to figure out who they're going to pick. None of that. 20 seconds on the clock. All drafts under 10 minutes. We're going to make the deal a little bit sweeter here. Use promo code plus DJNDoc for a deposit match up to $50. It's very simple, folks. Download Fast Draft Fantasy. Use the promo code plus DJNDoc. Deposit $50, and boom, we just got you a free $50. All right, my friend, let's round this out with our sleepers here. These are, again, guys we think can have a nice, solid bounce back year, maybe even just a breakout year,
Right.
that have been dealing with some things that are under the radar. It is our top fantasy bounce back sleepers here. We're gonna start with. Why don't we start with We'll start with the less of a sleeper, and that is wide receiver Rashid Shaheed. For the New Orleans Saints. I know I am suggesting a pass catcher on the New Orleans Saints, which is danger, danger, danger. But
Uh-huh.
there's a reason. He is currently getting drafted around 145, wide receiver 55, coming off a meniscus tear last year. Now, a meniscus tear, speaks to a tear of your meniscus, right? But that, which is basically it's kind of the cushioning for your knee, allows that non-bone on bone stuff. Look at that. Beautiful. Yes, that is your meniscus there. So when you have a tear, we got 3 potential options. One is physical therapy and it'll buff itself out, right? 2, surgically, is you can do a meniscectomy where they just cut out the damaged piece and
Right.
shorter recovery timeline. However, typically like 4 to 6 weeks. But when you talk about long-term knee health, you only get so much meniscus to go around. So once they cut it out, it's done. So worse for the career projection. So most people, especially younger players, they go for the meniscus repair, which tends to repair the meniscus. It is a longer recovery period of 4 to 6 months, so it's usually season ending. However, much better for long-term health. No real production dip seen coming off the year after. So set up for a pretty damn good year health-wise. Why do we think that he's got a shot to make a splash here with the New Orleans Saints?
Yeah, I mean, Rashid Shaheed is one of the best downfield deep threat receivers in the league.
Right.
Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, the pair there are kind of going around similar positions. Shaheed is a little bit further down, but Chris Olave is that smooth route runner that's going to break in and out and just get open. Where
Right.
Shaheed, he can do that a little bit, but this dude can absolutely fucking fly.
Yeah.
And with Shaheed, it's one of those boomer bust kind of things with him. But like you said, with a meniscus repair, we don't necessarily see any performance drop offs. So when it comes to guys coming off of injury, this is a guy that a lot of people are a little bit hesitant with, just not knowing the severity of this big knee surgery that he had.
Right.
He's gonna be fine.
Yeah. And Derek talked about, I especially love him in the best ball streets here,
Yep.
because is a guy who in only 6 games, and he got injured in the 6th game, but he was
Yeah.
on pace to have over 1,000 yards with the way he was going, and
Yep.
he had 3 touchdowns. Like, he had a long of 70 yards. Like, a lot of those big catches are going to result in touchdowns as well. So,
Right.
3 touchdowns from just 6 games, 20 catches. Like, that's a pretty absurd rate there that he was hitting at. So,
Yep.
I understand the concerns about the quarterback position, who's going to throw
Right.
on the ball. However, he should have plenty of opportunity, because that
Yep.
team, as we're expecting, is probably beginning to get the ever living daylights getting kicked out of them.
Yep.
So there should be a lot of potential for garbage time. A lot of, at least, they're needing to throw the ball to try to get back into the game.
Right.
It really only takes a couple of these, one couple. Hopefully, they're doing at least 3 or 4 shots a game, right? To
Sure.
kind of give him an opportunity to go up and get it, because he really is a burner, and he's someone that there people are talking about Olave. We can have the conversation about Olave. The concussions are a little bit concerning, but definitely a talented player. But yeah,
Mhm.
Olave's they were basically at the same pace. Actually, Shaheed was the better of the wide receivers when they were on the field together, right? I'm not going to say he's a better receiver, but production wise last year.
Right. Right.
And you can get him, a whole heck of a lot later. Again, I don't think there's 54 wide receivers that should be going ahead of him. I
Yep.
think he's someone that has proved he can be productive there. Of course, the quarterback concerns is the one kind of issue here,
Yep.
that is big, but sleeper for a reason. I think he's someone you can get late in your drafts that has a lot of potential to kind of have that breakout 1,000 yard season and get
Yep.
7 or 8 touchdowns. So Rashid Shaheed is our first sleeper, and our second sleeper, one of the hardest runners in the game, coming from the best
Former Gator.
university in the world. Yes, former Florida Gator, Damian Pierce, now Houston Texans running back here. So, last season it was a little bit of
I'll let you, hype Damian Pierce up
uh,
because I know
it's
you've been waiting.
thank you. It's an easy task. Probably the easiest thing I've been asked to do all week. First of all, anyone who runs and gets his helmet torn off and then still runs through a division or a rival's face to a touchdown. Yes, I'm talking about you, Florida State Seminole fans. Damian Pierce, baby. But yes, he is someone who was on the pup this offseason. He just got activated off this week with a
Yep.
quad strain, so he should be good to go. Obviously, the Mixon situation. We talked about Joe Mixon. He potentially has a third re-injury of a high ankle sprain. Nick Chubb is basically has a bionic knee at this point and 30
Have a
plus.
shell of himself.
So
Yep.
it's kind of a it's a dart throw backfield right now. And if there's a dart throw, I'm gonna take the guy who almost rushed for 1,000 yards in his rookie season, who has ran really hard, who has shown that he can be a productive back in the NFL, in
Yeah.
Damian Pierce. I mean, he's going at ADP 338, so he's basically not getting drafted. RB 95. Like, okay, yes, there's a little bit of projection here, but we know something's going on with Joe Mixon. Like, this is
Yeah.
he's not been
Yes.
out there. There's something fairly significant going on there. Nick Chubb, there's already been reports. Like, he's supposed to be the guy that gets the first shot at it. They're not
Yep.
very impressed. Like, they're talking about how, it's great to see him out there, but that burst is just not there.
Right.
Damian Pierce is a guy who will run through your face and like reckless abandonment. D'Amico Ryans is a defensive guy. I think he's
Yep.
someone that he can appreciate how hard he'll run. I understand the rookie Woody Marks, but he's a 4th-round guy. Like, I really think that if I'm touching any Houston backfield at all, it's a dart throw last round pick on Damian Pierce to, even if he has a couple spike games early on with Joe Mixon being out, he can pay off for you, whether it's redraft, or best ball. So
Yep. Yep.
my
No, I
sleep.
mean he's being drafted, if he's being drafted at all, as basically a third string running back for the NFL. He's
Mm-hmm.
not. I mean, might be that once Joe Mixon gets healthy, and we'll see what we get from Nick Chubb. But like you said, everything coming from Houston camp is like, it's nice to see you kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. It's not necessarily excitement
Right.
coming out of Nick Chubb's camp. So yeah, I mean, Damian Pierce is definitely worth a dart throw. At the end of the day, I think this is another situation where, hey, if he gets the ball rolling over the first couple of weeks and looks good. Who knows? I mean, Joe Mixon's going
Right.
into his age 30 season.
Yeah. Multiple
And
injuries and yeah.
exactly. So, who knows what this backfield is going to look like come week 12, 13, 14.
Yeah, look, the ceiling case is the opportunities open early on because of Joe Mixon stuff and Nick
Yep.
Chubb. Like, it's gonna be a split early on, of course, but I'm saying I
Yeah.
think Dameon Pierce is the guy who can show something with those opportunities, and then he
Yep.
carves himself a role for when Joe Mixon gets back, whether it's goal line work or whether he's just a change of pace guy, or maybe they start to split the backfield, right? Because
Yeah. And I think the argument between him and Woody Marks as the rookie running back is like Dameon Pierce has been there. He's done
right,
it in his rookie season. He knows the offense.
yep, he's been there for 3 years, so
Exactly.
yeah. So yeah, that's our final sleeper and our final bounce back player there. Fun episode. Always nice to talk injuries and then talk about guys we like, right? Because so much
Right.
of it is us being the doom and gloom and like, ooh, don't know if I do that. But
Little hesitant. Yeah.
so it's nice to be the good guys for once here. Yeah, I was just looking because I thought I got a Slater update, but nope, not yet. All right. All right, brother. Anything you got for the good people before we get on out of here?
Not a ton. I mean, we got a few more fantasy football shows coming up before the season starts. We'll probably do a best ball draft here in a little while. We might do some
Yep.
redraft strategy kind of stuff.
Yep.
Over on the bets channel, if you're into that kind of stuff, we're going to be doing some player awards, Super Bowl picks. We'll do a college football playoff or a college football episode leading
Right.
in to the college football season. So we got all kinds of stuff coming over here at IDP Plus bets.
Right.
If there's any sort of other content that you're looking for, shoot us a message, drop it into the comments. We'll be happy to answer any questions or talk about anything that you guys want. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Yeah. Next week, look out for our my guys and my fades. It's gonna be we're putting our stamp, we're planting our flag, as they say,
Right.
saying these are our guys for the 2025 season. Maybe you'll see a couple of these guys on here. And then these are our guys we're fading, want no part of, right? And then you said best ball draft. Who doesn't want to try to win $2 million?
Right.
Maybe we do it live on stream. We'll see there. And then, yeah, if you want to make a little bit of money, head on over to IDP Plus Bets. We've got all 8 division previews out, and we're coming out with 32
previews are coming out.
rolling out. So if you want a deep dive on your team or another team and you want to see how you can make some money off it, check out the IDP Plus Bets channel. But if you're more of the fantasy space, hang out here at the IDP Plus. And if you want any of our rankings, we've done redraft, we've done dynasty rankings, we've done our top 25 rankings. Check those out. We've got a ton of content for you, and we're going to put out more before we get to the NFL season. So we're jacked for the NFL. Maybe enjoy your team's preseason. Maybe enjoy a little fun, a cocktail. But get ready, folks, because as training camp winds down, I hope you're preparing and ramping up for football content and for the National Football League. From the DJ Doc and Professor Locks here at IDP Plus, we are out of here.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.